Hello, good evening, and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. The protests in Bangladesh are now a success. The Prime Minister, Ms. Sheikh Hasina, has resigned. She has fled the country, and according to news reports, she has landed at an undisclosed location in India. Why did the Prime Minister resign? What were the demands of the protesters? How important and significant are these developments for India? All that and much more in this session. But before we start, I urge you to press the like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. August 1947, the country was partitioned, unfortunately on the grounds of religion, into India and Pakistan. Pakistan then comprised of West Pakistan and East Pakistan. But even the religion, which acted as a glue, could not bind the two Pakistans together, because the East Pakistan, which was Bengali-speaking Pakistan, was discriminated against. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who was the leader of the Awami League, he was a prominent critic of the then dictator of Pakistan, Field Marshal Ayub Khan. Later on, elections were held, and in 1970, Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was all set to be appointed as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. But he was not allowed, and instead, he was arrested. And he demanded independence of East Pakistan from West Pakistan and wanted a liberation of his land, which later on came to be known as Bangladesh. India played a very important role in this India-Pakistan War of 1971, which led to the emergence of Bangladesh as an independent country. And let's also not forget that United States at that point in time was a close, confident friend of Pakistan. And United States almost tried to side with Pakistan during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971, and in fact sent the US Navy's 7th Fleet to the Bay of Bengal. And it was then that India reached out to Russia, and later on India-Russia Friendship Treaty was also signed, and Russia also sent its navy to help and aid India. And ultimately, Operation Searchlight was launched in March 1971, which led to the displacement of the millions of people from East Pakistan into India. But ultimately, India defeated Pakistan in this war of 1971. Bangladesh emerged as an independent country. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman became the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. And he started a foreign policy which was closer to our non-aligned foreign policy. But he said, friendship towards all, malice towards none. But within few years, in 1975, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated by the military generals. In fact, along with 18 of his family members, they were killed. Sheikh Hasina, the daughter, the current Prime Minister who has now resigned, she is the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. In 1975, she was in England, and then she was taken to India. And then she stayed in India in exile till 1981. And that is how she felt the sympathy in India. She felt the warmth with which she was respected and taken care of in India. And that's how she fostered good relations with the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, as well. But fast forward, in Pakistan, Jamaat-e-Islami plays a very important role, politically as well as socially. And Jamaat-e-Islami had a wing in Bangladesh as well, who were the supporters of Pakistan. They did not want the separation of East Pakistan from West Pakistan. But ultimately, Begum Khalida Zia of Bangladesh Nationalist Party and Jamaat-Islami, they are considered to be anti-India. They are considered to be pro-Pakistan. They're also considered to be pro-China as well. But since 2009, Sheikh Hasina has been governing Bangladesh, and recently she won her 4th consecutive term as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. But the world community, particularly the European countries and United States, they came down heavily on Sheikh Hasina. Why? Because on one hand, she has fostered economic growth in Bangladesh. She was on a path of developing Bangladesh as one of the most important economic powerhouses in this region. But at the same time, she was criticized for the alleged human rights abuses, for muzzling free press, for cracking down on the dissent. But it was during the period of Sheikh Hasina as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh that India and Bangladesh fostered good relations with each other, cordial relations with each other. Let's not forget the 2015 India-Bangladesh Land Boundary Agreement when Mr. Modi was the Prime Minister. That was also carried out when Sheikh Hasina was the Prime Minister. In fact, she has handed over militants, terrorists who were operating on the Bangladeshi soil to India numerous times in the past during her tenure. But then she was rocked by protests. And what were these protests for? Listen to me carefully. I told you briefly about the 1971 war, in which Pakistani Jamaat-e-Islami, the Bangladeshi wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, they were pro-Pakistan. They did not want the separation of East Pakistan from West Pakistan. But the activists of the Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, played a very important role. And for these activists of Awami League, those who participated in that war for the liberation of Bangladesh as an independent country, there was a quota system in government jobs. 30% quota in government jobs for the descendants of those activists who participated in the India-Pakistan War of 1971, who sided with the Bengali-speaking population of East Pakistan, which later on became Bangladesh. The protesters were demanding that this quota should be kept, should be put to an end, so that merit system should be recognized in Bangladesh. And ultimately, there were a series of protests. The Supreme Court came into the picture of Bangladesh and decided that this quota system should be revoked. The Supreme Court said that this quota for those war veterans must be cut to 5%. 93% of the jobs should be allocated on merit, and the remaining 2% should be set aside for ethnic minorities, for the members belonging to the transgender community, and to the disabled people. But the Bangladeshi Prime Minister then, Ms. Sheikh Hasina, she said, who are these protesters? These are not students. These are the activists of Jamaat-e-Islami. These are the activists of the Bangladeshi Nationalist Party of Begum Khaleda Zia. Now listen to me carefully again. The year was 2011, when a significant amendment was made to the Bangladeshi constitution. Till 2011, if elections are to be conducted, elections should have been conducted under a caretaker government. So there should have been a caretaker government in charge to hold elections, because that's how elections can be free and fair. But through an amendment to Bangladeshi constitution in 2011, this requirement of a caretaker government organizing or being in charge while elections are in place, this was done away with. Begum Khaleda Zia's Bangladeshi Nationalist Party, she was barred from contesting elections. And that is how her political party and other opposition political parties, they also boycotted the elections, because their primary demand was that should be a caretaker government who should be in charge while the elections will be conducted, because that's how elections can be free and fair. The West criticized the Bangladeshi government, but Sheikh Hasina did not relent. And it was in 2011 itself that Bangladesh declared Sheikh Mujibur Rahman as the father of Bangladeshi nation. So protests against the government high-handedness in the run-up to the elections in 2024, but ultimately the Awami League of Sheikh Hasina bagged 200 of the 300 seats and formed the government for fourth consecutive time. But then came these protests in which hundreds of civilians have lost their lives. Buses have been tortured. Important buildings have been torched. And now the protesters were demanding the ouster, the resignation of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister. Because although the quota system, which was put to an end by the Supreme Court judgment, although this stir regarding the quota system had come to an end, but the protesters still came on streets demanding the resignation of the Prime Minister. Because she used high-handed measures to kill the protesters, unarmed protesters in Bangladesh. And ultimately what happened? Sheikh Hasina said, those who are carrying out violence, these are not students, but these are the terrorists who are trying to destabilize the nation. She also accused protesters of sabotage, and then she cut off mobile internet services to crush dissent. In fact, since Sunday, an indefinite curfew was imposed in Bangladesh. But when the protesters stormed the residence of the Prime Minister, according to news reports, she boarded a helicopter, went straight away to India at an undisclosed location, and now she has resigned. The army chief of Bangladesh has said that we will form an interim government. We are in talks with the opposition political parties to form an interim government, and it is the army chief's responsibility to ensure that no more deaths take place. But if these were the protests for, how important and significant is this for India? India and Bangladesh share close to 1400 kilometers boundary, the borders. And India and Bangladesh, they share cultural relations as well. Let's not forget the participation of the Bangladeshi cricketers in the Indian Premier League and the kind of response they get when they play at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata. Not just that, I told you because of Sheikh Hasina's party in power, the relationship between India and Bangladesh developed prosperously. If Sheikh Hasina has now resigned, which she has, what will be the shape of the next government? Can India afford another Pakistan to the east side of her border? We almost share proxy war with Pakistan. There is standoff between India and China on the line of actual control. Myanmar also is in turmoil. Bangladesh is in the turmoil. Sri Lanka was in the turmoil till recently. So our neighborhood is in conflict. And this is not a good situation for India. And at the same time, if Ms. Sheikh Hasina has come to India to seek refuge in India, this will be the second time that she will be in exile in India. The government of India has to take care of her security, has to ensure that she is not harmed. But then will that be taken favorably by the new government in Bangladesh? Because we also have to ensure that we are diplomatically engaging with whatever new government is getting formed in Bangladesh. So the remaining few months are going to be extremely crucial in our neighborhood. That is it for now. A quick update on what has happened in Bangladesh, why Sheikh Hasina has resigned, what were the demands of the protesters, and how important and crucial was Sheikh Hasina for India-Bangladesh relations. Watch this space as we will come up with lots and lots of updates on what transpires between India and Bangladesh. Thank you for watching. Stay happy. All the best.